Hello, everybody, and I want to welcome you guys back to Living by Design with me, your host, Amber Williams. And we have a special guest today. We have the beautiful Meagan Ward, and we're going to let her introduce you. So, Meagan, who is Meagan?
Thanks, Amber. I'm super excited to be here today. My name is Meagan Ward. I'm a women's entrepreneurial activist. I'm a US-based American entrepreneur for the US Embassy, and I'm an international speaker where I share about my work and what I've done here in the city of Detroit in terms of women's empowerment and entrepreneurship.
Okay. And you guys, she is an amazing mother and wife. We're gonna drop that in there too.
Yes.
Meagan, so what was the catalyst that got you here? Because like I've been following you for years, we've been connecting for years, and so this has like been a long time coming. But what was the catalyst to get you to where you are right now? Because you're doing amazing things.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, there's been so many aha moments over the journey. I would say the first aha moment was when I was 6 years old and my grandfather told me that I was going to be an entrepreneur and that I was going to own my own company. I had no idea what that was.
Okay.
I had seen him running businesses and him being an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what being my own boss was. And so that seed was planted in me very early on. I was really raised as a leader. My daily decisions, like my family instilled in me, be a leader. And so it was interesting though, Amber, because I was a very shy child. And,
Mhm.
over the years, I would say that my family really elevated my toolkit, to
Mm.
like to move in the world, to sit at any table. And they really beefed up my confidence. I was really timid. I was very, I didn't want to speak a lot. And I just remember, going into restaurants and being like 7, 8 years old. And my mom's like, go order the table. I'd be like,
Mm.
wait, what? So, like walking up to people and really like learning how to communicate. And I think that's one
Yeah.
of the biggest things in life is like knowing how to communicate with people, understanding emotional intelligence. And
Mm.
it's just made my life as an entrepreneur easier.
It's yeah. I know because you when I reached out to you, I knew that was one thing about you that with your grandfather and it's like generational. What are you, a second generation entrepreneur? So like we have that in common. And I remember growing up just watching my grandfather and his businesses and then my parents and like we learned so much. It's like when you have that option and you see what it looks like to be an entrepreneur, it's kind of like you have that, not even kind of, it's that blueprint. You have that blueprint of what it looks like. So it's not something that's just out there floating around and foreign to you, And like you said, you have that toolkit. But I love how you said it really shaped your emotional intelligence because that is something that is huge with entrepreneurs. That's something that's huge in corporate companies that people truly lack and has to be something that's very cultivated.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, I love that about you that, and you're so graceful. So, I mean, and kind, and we need that in the world. It's easier to work with people who understand and are compassionate. So, diving in more into that, can you just talk about your journey of entrepreneurship? Like, where did you start? What was your first business look like? And then what does it look like now? Because you've really like elevated to international speaking. And I know, like you said, you're an activist. Like, what was the trajectory? What was the path? What did it look like?
Yeah, yeah. So when the recession hit, and I know you remember this time, like everyone was losing their jobs, people with college degrees couldn't find jobs. I remember a friend of mine, she had her college degree, she had a master's degree, and she's like, I'm just going to go work at Target. And so at that time, I was in college and my mom said, hey, Meagan, like, I'm funding your lifestyle while you're up at school. And she was a single mom at that time, really a single mom for my entire life. And she's
Mhm.
like, we're going to have to make some really hard decisions and you're going to have to come back home from school. And here I was, I had really worked really, really hard to get to college. You know what I'm saying? Like cheerleader, A's and B's, honor roll student, just really crossing my T's and dotting my I's my entire life. And I felt at that moment that everything was being taken away from me. And
Mhm.
my mom and I, we had been through challenges. We had been through those seasons of just really strife and pulling ourselves up out of a hole. And so I'm like, why would we dig ourselves in a hole again? Like, I have to go to school, And so I remember thinking, I have to make this work. She can't feel like she has all these responsibilities of me going to college and that it's all on her back. So I remember thinking of, okay, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to stay up here. Right. And
Okay.
so got on Craigslist. Got on Craigslist. And I remember thinking of, I need to start a business because, these part-time jobs aren't going to work with a full load of classes. And so this was like my strategic brain kind of thinking. And
Okay.
I was 21, my friends
Yeah.
were at the club. They were like, hey, you want to go party? And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how I can make a living so that I can stay up here at school. And so the mindset, like my mindset in college, it really up leveled because I started thinking as an adult. I started thinking,
Okay.
like of all these different things of like, okay, if I make this move, this could happen. These are the outcomes, right? And so yeah, I just started utilizing my skill sets and my gifts. I was majoring in business marketing. So I said, why not go into this business? And so I remember thinking of branding and marketing and advertising and all these different things. And eventually put out a post. I said, hi, I'm a student here at Western Michigan University, and I'm interested in helping you build your business. And that moment changed my entire life. Like, that's why we're sitting here today.
Wow. And I know you probably can attest to this because one of the things I did a lot of marketing and branding too. I went to school and my minor was marketing and then it was PR was my main degree.
Mhm.
But you really do not understand until you're in it that our gifts that we have, everybody doesn't know everything that we know. I
Mhm.
had to tell myself because I was like, people should know how to do that. People should know how to start an LLC. People should know how to do these things. But then when you really get into the thick of it and you see that you're offering the service, like people really don't know how to do this. That's why there are gifts. That's why they come to us to be able to do these turn around this and give it to them in excellent form. So I know that you in your company you do designing, so brand designing. I mean product design, right? Um, and so you went to school for the marketing and the branding. How did you transition from that to doing like the product? I mean, like for me to think about it, I can see how you went from there, but I know you have an entire firm where you create these products and then really kind of like do from A to B for the people, taking it to the market. So like, how did you get into that?
Yeah, no, that's a great so yeah, like branding is definitely the foundation of my expertise. And then design came about just really from a passion of being creative. I remember being in college and I was like, I want to be a makeup artist. I want to be a wardrobe stylist. And I just had
Mhm.
all these other passions of mine. And I think the most important thing to understand about your purpose is that your hobbies aren't necessarily your purpose, but they can help cultivate your purpose because you can start to weed out what you're excellent at, what you're
Yes.
not so great at, what you
Yeah.
just like to do. And so
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like those lines can get very gray, right? Because just because we like to do something doesn't necessarily mean that it's our purpose. And so I just remember thinking like, okay, how can I be in fashion? And so I was like, well, I don't like fashion that much to build a whole career around it, but I do like the aspect of putting things together. And so I was like, what's the closest thing to that? And I remember brand and design. I remember seeing that. And I didn't know how to design. I didn't know how to work Adobe programs, Photoshop, Illustrator, all of those things. But I took out the time and taught myself. A college
Mhm.
degree is one thing, but being a student of life is a whole different
It's
ballgame.
a whole different thing. Yes. and just teaching yourself Adobe and it's for me, I do design too, and I had to, when I wanted to take my sketches to the next level, I enrolled myself into a 3D and a 3D, can't even, a CAD program and CATIA and all those things, which really unlocked me stepping in fully into engineering and interior design, which was already a foundational base of it. But learning those programs and learning that skill set, and just like you said earlier, the recession, when we came out of that last recession, I was like, man, I gotta get my skill set up. And I think people do not, skills pay the bills, okay? Like
All that.
skills, trades, they pay the bills, and then you tap that genius on top of it to be able to build the brand that you built. Like, you're banking. It's like it's happening, you
Yep.
have no choice but to put the energy behind it, and it just keeps going and you get the momentum to get to where you're going. So it's like, I think people really like listening to this interview, understanding that skills pay the bill. Like if you really want to step into your next income category or starting a business, what kind of skill set do you need? Because right now, tech is the thing right now. So if you have some type of skill in tech, like you're good,
Yeah.
because AI and all this stuff that we have right now it's not even the future anymore. It's right now. And
Yeah.
it's like people need to be aware. Do you use any AI in your design?
Yeah, so I actually don't have to because I'm at like the entry stages of branding. So a lot of
Okay.
times when I'm doing like product development, I'm creating that base foundation. Now,
Okay.
when we get into like designing 3D worlds, then yes, like I can design out like a conference or, a shopping experience or things like that.
Okay.
It is the future, Amber. And I think what's important about now is that, we're still in the early stage, and
We are
so
still learning. Yeah.
yeah, like to adopt these technologies, it's really like you have to get all into it, even if you don't know it, even if you feel uncomfortable. And so yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this is a revolution happening before our eyes. And how do I not get counted out? Right. Like I think that's a real question to ask ourselves.
Yeah. That is a real question.
Yeah, like the pandemic changed so many different things. And it's like, okay, are you going to be, one of those people that even like when Instagram started getting popular, people were like, I don't know how to use Instagram. Well, one, Instagram is a free tool, right? So if you use it effectively, it can not only be a free tool, but it can build revenue streams for your companies. And so
For
now that
sure.
we're thinking about, the metaverse and augmented realities and virtual realities and Oculus glasses and all these different things, right? We won't get
Right.
into it. But you're like, okay, what do I do? And so my hope, especially for women of color, minority women, is to start having these conversations with each other. With my tribe,
Yes.
we've definitely started having these conversations like, how will
Mhm.
our businesses pivot? How will we scale? Is there an opportunity to scale digitally at that level? So
Yes. Actually, you're talking about with the metaverse. I just got back from Houston this weekend. I was talking to my friend because everything she does now is like basically metaverse based. And she was just talking about Accenture now does their employee training through VR. And I was just like, so I'm like, okay. I was like, Amber, I was like, I had 1 foot in the metaverse, and I'm like, okay, I'm about to put 2 feet in the metaverse now. Cause I was like,
yes,
I know about that, and I'm very up to date on a lot of AI and everything, just being in engineering, but I don't I need to, something that I read the other day, need to really step into my beginner's mind so I can just dive all the way into it. But I also was thinking, since you said Instagram, you have a huge following base on Instagram. You have talked about like making influencer income streams, and don't you, we would call you, you are influencer too, right?
you
You
know
would
what?
say that?
I wouldn't say that I'm an influencer. No, I definitely wouldn't. I'm an entrepreneur by heart. I love to create businesses, but I'm also, I also see opportunity, and
Okay.
I'm really big on monetizing off your personal brand. I think that's what we're going to see a lot of in the metaverse. And so,
Okay.
you know, I play my cards when it comes to working with big brands, and it's one of those things, Amber, where I love to see what hasn't been done before, and I love to do it.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
and so when it comes to like innovation in a very unorthodox way, I'm about that life. Like I truly am. So I'm like, you know, if there's no one that's going for the big brands, I will, you know, and I'm a micro,
Yes.
you
Okay.
know, I'm considered a micro influencer, which is
Okay.
like influencers under like 150K. And so micro influencers, we are all of us, right? Like, because most of us are entrepreneurs, but we're next up. And I say that because brands are gearing away from celebrities or people with like millions of followers, because they're starting to realize that we have the biggest impact. You know, we have the biggest engagement. We have built the communities that
Yes.
are creating these massive networks, right? So let's just say you have a
Mhm.
network of 100 people, and then those 100 people, they know 100 people, that's your network,
Yes.
versus like a million people following a celebrity. And you know, there's just like so many different people where we have niche communities, and
Yes.
they know our likes and what we don't like and all these different things. So it's easier, I would say, in this day and age to work with a big brand, as
Okay.
long as you're about building the relationship and not
Mm-hmm.
for a dollar sign.
It is. And relationships are everything. Relationships are everything. I don't think people really understand how big relationships are. You know, I've been cultivating a relationship with you online for years. So it's
Yes.
like relationships are huge, and you just, and collaboration is the new business. Like if you're not collaborating with people or trying to find ways how people can make money together, it's like, what are you doing? Like there's so much money for out, there's just an abundant of everything out here for everybody. Um, and so I really wanted to kind of like pivot and then like go into family business because I love the Ward dynasty. I remember seeing, what was it, last year, you guys, your family made a crest. I was like, oh, Meagan, she's on, they're on some next level. Like only if you know, you know. If you know what a crest, a family crest is, then you know. And I was like, okay, I get it. I see the vision, and I get you guys. You know what I'm saying? I get you, because I was like, okay. So like I want to dive into the like the family business, like you and your husband, you guys work together and the family. And then I know you have what your oldest son is, he's 5,
He's
right?
5. Yeah, Grace
And then
5.
Astro just turned 1.
Yep.
What does it look like, your family dynamic and structure? Because I think the women, I talked about this the other day. Women should be able to have a choice, you know, and to be able to be mom and, or whatever they decide they want to do, and they can do it all. But creating that, what's the first, like ecosystem, because I really saw that a lot growing up in my household, because I come from an entrepreneurial family. But my mom really, she made it work, but she also, we had support. I asked her all the time. I was like, Mom, how'd you do it? She was like, oh, we had support, but it was still hard. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
like how, like, what does it look like? And how do you do it?
Yeah, for sure. One, the first thing that comes to mind is, and you're big on this, is living by design, right? I
Yes.
design my life with God's vision in mind. And
Mm-hmm.
once you own up to what God has for you and you really start accepting, you can really start seeing the beauty of life. But what I've built with my family is one of my most proud accomplishments. The relationship that I have with my husband, um, the relationship that I have with my kids, the way that they work together and love on each other. It's just really, really beautiful. And Amber, it's something that I've never seen before. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm an only child, pretty tight knit, close family. Um, come from some traumas and things that, I've had to heal from and still healing over the years. But really doing the work, really doing that internal work, and then seeing it show up in every area of my life. You know, from time to time, I might get someone who say, well, how'd you make it here? Or how'd you get to do all of these things? Honestly, being a good person, being a fair person, giving people grace and space, and then putting myself first. Um,
Yes.
you know, the women in my family worked so hard, still work so hard, and had that selfless mentality, right?
Mhm.
And I've
Mhm.
always admired how women put things together, right? How they're able to wake up in the morning, put the kids in the car, stay focused on what they have to do at work, and then just make the day just so fulfilling and full. And I seen my mom did that, but I also seen her burn out, right? I seen her burn
Mhm.
out, and I said, I don't want that. So what's required for me to not burn out? And that was putting yourself first, right? So putting yourself first, new world for me, totally uncomfortable. Literally, it would make me cringe to even think about putting myself first. But my sons know, my husband knows, Megan first. But after Megan is also a wife and a mom and a friend and a mentor, right? They know I have all these roles and that you really can't put me in a box, and I see a lot of women sacrificing their career. I knew I didn't want to sacrifice any part to my career. Um,
Yes.
if I had to wait to make an educated decision or a best decision to properly plan out my vision and my business ideas and concepts, then I would wait. I remember launching Femology in 2017, and my son was one, and he was with me through the building phase of Femology, and so he got to see the gritty nights and the not going to sleep and all of those things. And so they've been rocking with me, Amber. Like, they deserve everything. Like, my fam, they are sweet, they are kind, they are intelligent, they um just they're everything, and I'm just really proud of them as human beings. If I'm
Yes.
not related to them, I would still be so very proud of just their mindsets and what they're open to.
Love that. Ooh, I love all of that. Oh, I love all that because family is like huge for me, and it's like you said, when God is in the center of everything, and we're just designing this life that's our dreams, things start to just flow. It doesn't even really matter how long, because God really like lines things up. Sometimes you have to go through these soul lessons, one, so you can get to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And it's like, it's not that we're waiting, but we're in position for the next thing. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I've been watching you do your wellness journey, your healing journey, which has been so beautiful. And like you said, we all come here with some traumas. But the thing is, what's beautiful is that you have the courage to really work through them so you can have this beautiful, just sacred life and bond with your family. So like, I commend you that, and I want to see you so much love and honor it for you.
So sweet.
And I know this past, what was it? When did you guys go on this family trip? I'm like, the
Yep.
family trip, we went for a whole month
Yep.
to
We got
like
back in June.
Dubai and everything. Like, how did that happen? And like planning that out, what was it like? What was the experience in Bali?
Yeah, so we've been doing these, we call them world tour trips, where
Okay.
we spend 30 days in a country or a couple different countries. And normally the countries, we select them based off of our bucket list trips. And so we'll kind of
Okay.
bounce off of, Gil did London, that was like his trip. Um,
Okay.
Dubai and Bali was my trip. And then we're going to go to Tokyo for
Okay.
Grace trip. So we've kind of,
Oh,
enhanced
he's in the
family.
Tokyo. Oh, he's next level.
Yeah, he's like, we got to go to Tokyo. He was like, but mom, I'm thinking about Tokyo or Australia. I don't really know. But it's just really cool that we can have these opportunities. And the seed of traveling started with us in 2017. We started traveling that year, right? So it's not like we have like a 10-year, span or 20-year
Mhm.
span. We started traveling that year, and God was really tugging on us like, hey, like you guys are global. And when you lean into your gifts, you're like, what? Like, God, are you sure about this? And
Yeah.
our first trip, the embassy flew us out to a country called Tbilisi, Georgia. And we had an amazing time. We bonded with some of the diplomats, became friends with them. And that's when we realized how we were able to bond with people of different nationalities and
Yeah.
cultures. And we were just like, wow, all ego aside, but we're kind of worldly people, and people take to us. And that was something we had to lean into because it was uncomfortable. We're from Detroit, like we're from the inner city. We call it West Side. And
Yeah.
my husband and I, we didn't grow up seeing people travel. We didn't grow up
Okay.
seeing like family trips was like going to Cedar Point and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe like a Florida trip every now and then, or like Hawaii, but that was a blue moon. So to frequent different countries, I would say we are incredibly blessed. That is what we consider wealth is traveling and learning different people and cultures,
Yes.
and how to move in the world, right? And be a good.
Yes. Gray and Astro are like getting like they're learning so much from all the travel. Like Bali, I know like Bali's on my list. Like the places that I've been overseas is, but I've been Australia, New Zealand, and then like the islands, and I've been to all the like basically all the states in United States. But my son has traveled more than me. He's been to London, Paris,
That's
Scotland.
cool. I love
Um,
that.
like for me, and
Yes,
I'm just
baby.
like, I'm grateful for my parents and my mom, like when I was home working and really pounding the pounding the payway, trying to build my own brand. Because like for me, like my son was, when I graduated from college, I moved to New York and I ended up coming back when I found I was pregnant. But my son was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. So I was like, I gotta find out, I gotta find these resources. So it was like I'm trying to build and do that as a family and then just kind of like focus on that. And it's like, I'm grateful for my village to be able to do that, and grateful that my mom is someone who loves to travel. She was like, okay, we're taking the kids. Like that's their thing, as they take the kids, their grandkids on all these trips. So I'm like, well, he never missed out on anything. So I'm just grateful for that he didn't miss out on anything. But like travel is so huge when you're a child to
Mhm.
be able to experience the world. It really does shape you. So like
Yeah.
I can't wait to see who Gray and who Astro become, because they've got the world at their fingertips,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then also you look at it like this, like you said, we're worldly people and you get to go to these other countries and talk to women about being business professionals. Like, I know that like when you stepped into, because when did you step into, the, what was it? Has it been about 2 years you've been doing traveling for?
It actually has been 5. Yep,
Has it
5
been, I
years.
mean, 5 years that you've been traveling and speaking internationally?
Yep,
Has it
5
been
years. Yep.
Wow.
There's something called the US Embassy Speaker Program that
Okay.
I was inducted in 2017.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
after that, they started sending me reoccurring trips. And so with the reoccurring trips, my second trip was Trinidad and Tobago. After that,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Moscow, Russia. Um, and then some other opportunities came about, but it was during the pandemic. And I'm also a mom, right? And so when you're traveling to third world countries and countries that are at war, you really have to make that, again, educated decision for your family of, does this make sense for us, right? Is
Okay.
it a good move for us to do? And so I've passed up some opportunities just because it has not, aligned, or, the kids were
Mhm.
doing something or something like that. But again, like prioritizing, right? So sometimes the kids, I might have a deadline, right? That deadline might come first that day, right? And so overarching, of course, the kids come first. But when mom has a deadline or a task at hand, they know I have to get it done, right? There's something about me, Amber, is like, regardless, I'm getting it done,
Yeah.
and just something that I think I've learned like through childhood, and having a single mom, that you don't want to slip up, right? Like that one thing can really put a fork in so many other things. And so I just really learned a heck of a work ethic, right? Like a
Yeah.
heck of
You
a
do have a heck of a work ethic.
man, Amber. And social media is one thing, but like I go hard in the paint, when it comes to the overall vision and the late nights. Like I'll say yes to it, and I'm not saying that that's always right, because it has affected my self-care and things
Mhm.
like that. But I think as women, understanding what our limits are, you know
Yeah.
when I get to my limit, I stop, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Me
when I get to
too.
my limit, I stop. But I used to not stop and be on the hamster wheel and just not stop. And I remember getting fibroids, in my early 20s.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, what are fibroids? Like, I don't know what
Hmm.
young young woman, you hear about you kind of see it on Google, right? But then when it
Yeah.
actually happens to you, you're like, did I really drive
Yeah.
myself down this pathway? you know
Okay.
so self-care has definitely been a challenge over the years. Pandemic, I lost about 40 pounds, and that truly changed the way I viewed self-care. And it wasn't about the
Wow.
weight, but it was about putting myself first, and
Hmm.
why I had such a challenge putting myself first. And again,
Hmm.
mirror work, right? So
Yes,
sometimes you have to face uncomfortable truths about yourself. And there's so much beauty in that at the same time.
it is. It is to learn the transparency. I'm so glad that you brought that up because I was diagnosed with, I found out 2 years, what's this, been 2 years that I had a fibroid too. And I was like, how did I get this? I was like, I do all the things. I do all the things. And I'm always working down there. I'm always like, and it's so, I'm so glad you brought that because it brings an awareness, especially in the Black community. Black women, we suffer the most with fibroids. But I am just meeting a lot of women who that work ethic, like we work so hard. And then it's like, I'm seeing a lot of women that they're having the same thing. And it's like, the doctors and the researchers, they need to dive in deeper and see what is going on. I mean, like I already have my own little thing where I know what's going on, but it's so prevalent in our community that it's getting like really scary, and it's like it can affect us in so many ways. But thank you for like bringing that up, because that is like something, and just like sharing your truth about that, because that is, like you said, it's good for us to be in these spaces and have these talks, and then women seeing women like you and knowing that you're experiencing the same thing, and it's like whoever I could help, we could help, in that way. So thank you for mentioning that. I also wanted to just bring up, like, as far as like your self-care, is it for you? Because this is how I think about self-care. Like self-care is an everyday thing for me. Do you feel that way? Or is it like you work, and then you take a couple of days off? Or is it something like every single day, like you are tuning in for so many hours before, you work, or just the me time? Because I know you said it's Megan first. Well, what does that look like? Is it every single day, or is it like you work, and then you take off?
So the first thing that comes to mind, Amber, and I know you're so big on self-care, and that's one of the big reasons why I admire you. You see boss women, but then you you see boss women burning out, but then you see boss women taking really, really good care of themselves. And that's something that's always been a goal of mine. Seeing my mom just work really, really hard and then, do a bath every blue moon, And another thing, I feel like self-care has been so commercialized.
Mhm.
Self-care is not just baths and getting our nails done and going to get massages, but self-care is a state of being, it's a state of mind. And so going through that personal development journey of putting myself first, that was a self-care experience. I
Yes.
really had to
Mhm.
challenge my belief system of, okay, when you wake up, why aren't you spending time with yourself? When you wake up,
Mhm.
why are you thinking about what projects you have, And growing up, performing was huge for me, measuring up to excellence, measuring up to, Black girl excellence. That was all something that I was striving for. And when you're striving and striving and there's no destination, you can get lost. And
Yes.
I got lost, Amber. I looked up, I
Mhm.
was 25 years old, and I was just really lost at not what I was doing professionally, because I was very driven in that regard. But when it came to self, just really, really lost and confused and no foundation.
Okay.
Yep. So that is where I was. And what truly helped me was an emergency. When your health tanks and something goes wrong, that kind of creates that aha moment for you. And you're like, okay,
Yeah, it
something has
does.
to change and something has to change quick, and
Exactly.
I
So
just,
quick.
yeah, I remember telling my husband, like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I think I'm gonna have to really start taking care of myself. And that's when he jumped on the self-care wagon where he was like, okay,
Okay.
yeah. And so now it's like I consider us a self-care tag team,
Okay.
when he needs to go and handle his runs or, his haircut or even like getting friend time, like him going to spend time with his friends or me going to spend time with, my women friends, like that is all a part of self-care,
It
And
is.
so it's been a healthy learning experience.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm still in the early stages of discovering, what I like, what I don't like, and
Yeah.
being firm in it. You know what I'm saying, Amber?
Yeah. It doesn't even be, it's not even a lifestyle anymore. Like you said, it's a state of being.
Yeah.
And I've started something new this past week that I'm adding in my business, Tai Chi. I've always been like drawn to Tai Chi, but my friend that I was just with and I was doing business with this weekend, like she's a Tai Chi master. And so
Wow.
I'm like, she was teaching, like I sat in a session with her and I was like, I'm in. I'm in because anything that can take me to the next level, elevate. Because like now, since my son is about to be 18 and graduate, oh, it's go time. Unless, I know like the my focus is that I'm going to get married. I know I'll get married. I always knew I would get married later in life. If I have another kid, if I do, I do, I don't. I got to experience being a mother. But this elevation of my mind being able to, it's like I tell people all the time, it's about that endurance to be able to do the journey and to be able to do the journey and be this, I like to say, this world-class human being while doing this journey. Because it's like what you just said, the awareness you had around like telling your husband, yo, something's not right, I gotta slow down. Like you know how many people like turn off those
That's
tickers, those thermostat in their body that's telling them like, hey, you need to cool down, or you're going to burn out, or you're going to get sick, you're going to have a stroke. People who just don't do it. So it's
and it's
like
so easy to ignore it.
it is very easy to, you're like, oh, it's nothing. I got a little pain, ache. You should never ache and pain. If you
Ever.
have an aching pain in your body, even if you're cramping as a woman, that's a red flag. And we're so accustomed to ignoring the red flags. You're like, oh, it's nothing. I'm old. I'm this, I'm 30. Oh, you know the meme they'll say, ladies over 35, what hurts today? And I'm like, nothing. So it's like,
Right.
because anytime I hear something, I'm like, mm-mm, I'm working too hard. I'm not doing this. I'm not taking up enough time. And it's like, dial back, or I can't be the best in what I do, or I can't serve people like I want to serve people. And so, it's just it's so beautiful to hear you say that, like, it was an awareness that you had, because a lot of people don't have that awareness. And in the pandemic, it really kind of like everybody had to slow down. It really clicked on for some people. And they're like, I don't like this. I don't like what I'm doing or anything. So we're going to go on and we're going to wrap it up. And I want to ask, is there anything else you want to give? It also, okay, this is like the question I always ask women. What does it mean to be a goddess? Because I'm all about the goddess mastery, everything, like, because you are definitely a goddess.
Yeah. So, I love that. I love it. Having a philosophy for your own life, and cultivating that philosophy through every experience of life. And we live our life in gratitude. No matter the season, no matter what we're experiencing, we just love to take the good from it. And the not so good, we just take it as a learning experience and become better human beings. And
Yeah.
it has allowed us to move so peacefully in life, and to truly show up, in all areas. And I don't show up differently. Like the essence of my spirit does not show up differently in different aspects of life, if that makes sense. So how you have some people, they're like, I'm going to be this way in business, but then I'm going to be this way with my family. No, if I'm a loving, kind, gracious human being, I'm going to be that way in business. And I'm also going to be that way with my family. Am I not going to be firm? No, I'm still a very firm businesswoman.
Yeah.
The essence and the nature of who I am does not change.
That's goddess mastery. That's mastery in itself. So I love that. So you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch with you, to work with you, or follow you on Instagram? I know I'll put like all the information down there, but how can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram, Meagan A. Ward, MEAGANAWARD. And then if you want to just browse my website, meganward.co, you can. If you're interested in mentorship or branding, I do have those available. So it was awesome chatting today. I was totally looking forward to this conversation, Amber.
Me too.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a podcast, and I'm a big fan of podcasts. So thank you for having me. I
You're
admire
welcome.
your work and everything that you're doing in life and love and your purpose. So thank you again.
You're welcome. And we'll catch everybody on the next episode. Thank you for listening.